It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you are with us here on this Friday. A lot to get to here on the show. We'll chat with Matt Ray coming up in hour number 2 as the Vols at Tennessee look to start spring practice. And where do they stand here going into spring practice with Josh Heupel? We'll chat with him coming up in the middle of hour number 2. But some football news to get to, basketball news, certainly wild there. The ACC canceling one of their semifinal games, the Big 12 canceling one of their semifinal games between Kansas and Texas. The ACC's was Georgia Tech and Virginia. Virginia had contact tracing issues on their team, and Georgia Tech gets the bump into the championship game. So that one coming up Saturday. They'll play the winner of Florida State in North Carolina. But we'll get to that coming up in just a little bit. Braves back at it inside 3 weeks to go until opening day. And a bunch of news and notes there, fellas, as Nick Markakis retiring after 15 seasons. And I know he was a guy that was not the face of the franchise. He was not the emotional, fire stick of the team, needless to say. But a guy, I think that when he came in, a lot of people said Nick Markakis, I think kind of stabilized the clubhouse, was a pro, a guy that guys looked up to. And I think kind of paved the way for Freddie Freeman to emerge as the leader / star of this team and move forward.
Yeah, I think Nick Markakis, a really good player, really important player for the Braves. Not going to be a guy that's going to get Hall of Fame consideration, but you think about over 2,000, I think around 2,200 plus career hits.
2,300.
2,300. You're talking about being an elite defender. You're talking about consistency. You're talking about with the Braves was able to get into the postseason, have some success. I know he didn't do a ton of that, obviously, in Baltimore, but I think you're talking about a pro's pro, a veteran, a guy who was a standard setter, a really good player, and somebody that deserves to be remembered fondly. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, Nick Markakis is kind of like what you hope to become as a pro. Everybody's not going to be the face of a franchise. Everybody's not going to be a year in, year out, all-star. But Kevin, what you mentioned, when you got a guy like Nick Markakis who don't, listen, I put on my hard hat, I go about my day, I don't worry about the superstars. I make it so that a guy like Freddie Freeman can go out there and do it. I can show young guys this is how you come to work. And just like a Freddie Freeman, Nick Markakis, if he's healthy, he's playing. He's not a guy that he doesn't do. I don't want to not play. I want to play a game in and game out. But whenever you can get the respect of your franchise, organization and your teammates, that's all you can ask for. And he turned out to be a really, really good pro. He's going to be missed, Kevin. Like I said, a man that doesn't speak a lot, but definitely lets his play go out there and speak for him. Incredible career, great teammate, great player.
Certainly. And again, he announces his retirement. Also, Ender Inciarte, the Braves announced out with a thumb injury. Not sure when he'll be back. He's kind of been limited for the last week or so. Hadn't gotten a lot of at-bats. 3 weeks till the start of the season. BJ Ben, does that clear the way for Christian Pache, your top-rated prospect, to be the starter in center field? And, oh, by the way, switch numbers in the offseason, now wearing 25, previously worn by one Andrew Jones, former center fielder for the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, I think Pache was going to be the guy already. Respect Ender Inciarte. He's had a good career. He's been an elite defensive player, but in terms of his offensive game right now, it's not enough to bump him over a rising star like Pache. I think even pre-injury, he was probably destined for a bench role, at least with the Atlanta Braves. And Pache, though it was very limited exposure, looked comfortable, looked confident in the playoffs a year ago. And defensively, his prowess is already renowned around the game. Now, in terms of the number 25, as long as Andrew Jones is cool with it, I like it. I think it shows a confidence. I think it shows an eagerness to be a part of the tradition, to be the next in line, to embrace the expectations. When guys put in the work, when guys have the accolades, when guys have shown at every level they've been that they're big time, I think it's absolutely warranted to embrace the expectations, to think you should be good, to think you should be top notch. Now, if Andrew Jones was like, hey, I want that, then that's a different thing. But in terms of just embracing the moment and kind of welcoming the expectations, I think that's pretty impressive from the young man.
I know numbers in sports, Ben, are kind of a funny thing. Like It's just a number, but it is a number all the same. Like, I mean, if you go to Green Bay and say, I want to wear number 4, I mean, you better back that up, right? I mean, you go to the Colts and say, I want to wear 16. Yeah, you better. Yeah, I'm going to go play for the Patriots and wear 12. Well, you better ball out, right? I mean, obviously it's a confidence play, but you say, hey, give me Andrew Jones's number. I'll be in the same position, center field as him. I mean, that's huge. That's a big statement on your half just by picking a number.
I applaud it. I applaud it. And BJ, it kind of goes against what's me and you, as always, talking about these young upcoming players. Do they know about the history, not just at their position, but these numbers? And I saw it yesterday on Twitter. I mean, I saw him, kind of like doing it. I said, uh-oh. But at the same time, he's embracing it. Every great play he makes in the center field, they go, oh, man, that remembers, take us back in time. So I can appreciate a player who embraces the fact that, look, I'm going to be playing center field for the Braves. I'm supposed to be the next great one. Will I be? I don't know. But let me embrace all the smoke. That way I want to be able to, because I've seen guys say, listen, the number is already great. Can you recreate that greatness? And that's something, those are some big shoes to fill when you're talking about Andrew Jones. But I like it though, Kevin. I like these young guys coming up. And that's what a Ronald Acuna Jr. will do for a guy like Christian Pache. Say, look, embrace it, man. Like, and I know Ender is out, but they're looking around saying, look, if he's supposed to be the guy, we're supposed to have the best farm system in baseball, or one of them. Put him in there at third base. All this waiting, I don't understand that. Put him out there, see what he can do. Because if not, ask Austin Riley how it works when they just got you in and out of the lineup and you ain't put him in his position. Let him go out there and ball. And like I said, Kevin, the very first diving catch, you already know what they're going to be saying. But that's what happens when you're playing a big-time position for a great organization that had a great player at that position. You hope to be able to live in those, live in the shadow of a guy. Listen, they're comparing you to Andrew Jones. Young man, you got to have some talent. Will you live up to it? We will see.
Sure, and BJ, from a fan perspective, I know Andrew Jones, a fan favorite. I mean, how do you think the fans take? I mean, I'm sure people are like, "Hey, it's not a big deal," but as you said, there's a responsibility that you've brought on yourself when you kind of bring that on yourself and say, "Hey, I'm wearing the same numbers." Andrew Jones, a Braves legend, one of the best center fielders to ever play the game. How do you think the fans kind of lay that on him now that he's embraced it? How did the fans accept that now that he's done it?
Well, I think it's gonna be the same as how fans react to everything. If you ball out and you play well, it's gonna be, oh man, he's the next Andrew. I love seeing 25 out there again. I love seeing the diving catches and stealing home runs, and I'm so excited for the future. What an awesome player. And then if he doesn't play well, it's gonna be, man, why did this guy think he could wear 25? I mean, he's not Andrew Jones. We're never going to have another Andrew Jones. What are we going to do? I mean, that's how fans react. So I don't think the quote fan reaction is going to be any different than anything else. If you're playing well, everybody loves you. If you're not playing well, everybody's going to have questions.
Yeah, but BJ, but the thing is too, I do, feeling my heart of hearts that Christian Pache is embracing this Andrew Jones stuff. But he need to really go look though. Like, dude, this dude was that dude. Like Andrew Jones, I mean, he's one of those, on the outside looking in guys that should, be in the Hall of Fame when you talk about his contributions to the game in that position. But I embrace anybody who want that smoke. It's something about saying, I want it, man. Like, what number you want? Let's switch to 25. Could you imagine that Kevin, the equipment man goes, wait, what? I'm switching to 25. You sure? Yeah. Do front office know about this? Yeah, I already spoke to him. All right, because I'm about to put Pache on the back, but I love it. And maybe, hopefully, sometime during the year, they'll do something with him and a sit down with, Christian Pache and Andrew Jones, man, because I think that kind of stuff is important. But, hey, Pache, I'm rooting for you because of who you play for, but if you stink up the joint, you will get criticism from me. I'm letting you know right now.
Don't bring the disrespect to the number 25 back in the day. But no, again, the Braves a little bit, less than 3 weeks away from opening day. BJ and Ben announced that initial capacity for Truist Park going to be 33%. So a third of the way full of fans there as we start the season. And that seems to be in line with some of the places we've seen around there. I think as you see more and more, that's 3 more weeks of vaccinations that are getting rolled out. That's 13,500 fans seems to be a reasonable number to get started with if you're the Braves.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea how to provide any expertise on that, as that's well beyond my pay grade. I do think as long as you're kind of following the medical guidance, listening to the experts, listening to the people who understand kind of what we're looking at from a viral standpoint, from a vaccination standpoint, from a public health standpoint, I think you move forward and follow their guidance. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's always easy to start small and and go bigger, Kevin. If everything starts getting better, you can always add. You don't want to say, "Oh, we're starting out at 50%." The next thing you know, it's going from 50 to 40 to 30. Just start small and build. Plus, with all these young superstars, this Braves team is going to definitely be good. Hopefully it'll be one of the hottest tickets right now when you talk about being able to get to see these guys in person. But I do like the fact that they're putting a number on it, not saying we're going to be at full capacity for the in Grapefruit League, which is crazy.
Well, I have no doubt it'll be sold out, whatever they allow in there. I believe it'll be sold 100% of whatever they allow to get them in there and get started. We've got more to come here on 3 and Out on this Friday afternoon, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. A lot of college basketball news out there and more. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We're also streaming live ESPNCoastal.com, live video streaming, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube as well here on this Friday afternoon. Good to have you here, Kevin, BJ, and Ben on Friday. It's 3 and Out. Thanks for making us a part of your day. We'll get some NFL news, a lot of it out there as well here on this Friday. But college basketball, a lot happening as it was. We talked about this yesterday, a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago when things started shutting down. And here we are a year later, still playing. And we still are, experiencing some interruptions. Georgia Tech today on to the championship game in the ACC after Virginia had to withdraw due to contact tracing within their program. We saw Kansas shut it down at the Big 12. Their game against Texas canceled due to a positive test. So we're seeing it in some major conferences here. As BJ, you and I talked about this yesterday. How do you possibly get through the NCAA tournament without having a team have to dip out at some point?
Yeah, I mean, especially given what we're seeing in these conference tournaments, it's kind of hard to look ahead and not think at least something's going to occur in Indianapolis. Now, I think the infrastructure and the setup is why the anticipation might be for less incidents, I guess, because you'll have not a true bubble in the NBA sense, but you'll have much more of a centralized, controlled environment, from what I understand, and maybe the hope is that can mitigate or limit potential spread, potential exposure. But yeah, I mean, it's a continuation, man. I mean, it's 2020. You basically didn't have conference tournaments. You didn't have an NCAA tournament. You come over to 2021, and the virus is still with us. It's still out and about, and it's very unfortunate. You feel terrible for Duke and Virginia and Kansas, and certainly you want everybody's safety and health and kind of ability to move forward to be paramount and first in all of this. But I think it's kind of the reality of the times. And yeah, I mean, sadly, I wouldn't be stunned if we see more news like this moving forward.
Sometimes you got to be reminded that, yes, while we are making strides as it pertains to this coronavirus and all these different protocols that we trying to implement. Kevin, me and you were sitting here last year trying to do the show when Florida State and Clemson walked out, and there was like, look, we're not going to have an ACC tournament. I think what happens there sometimes too, it's a lot of moving parts. 12 to 15 players, position. I mean, head coaches, assistant coaches, trainer. It's a lot of people. So when you see, it was a. What I like the most is when you hear, hey, there, somebody had it. They shut it down. It's not we're going to try to move forward. I'm not placing any level of significance. Whoever wins it, they still want it, even if a team had to drop. You understood that this was a possibility, when, entering the tournament. I feel bad for the teams, but they placing health, over the games, and I can appreciate that.
We got Florida State and North Carolina tonight. Florida State gets to this point for the same reason as Georgia Tech does, moving on to the finals. So we'll see if the Seminoles and BJ, we've talked about this in a year where you've had kind of the blue bloods of college basketball seemingly struggle for much of the season. I mean, you're two halves of good basketball by Florida State away from having Florida State and Georgia Tech for your ACC championship. Certainly two non-traditional basketball powers playing for the title.
Well, I mean, I would disagree with that to a certain extent. I mean, Florida State's won multiple ACC championships in recent years. Georgia Tech was in the national championship in 2004 and has the ACC Player of the Year. I mean, I would agree that they're not Duke and Carolina, but I think in terms of success over the last 20 years, you could name a whole lot of programs in the ACC in terms of programs lacking, tradition or star power before Florida State and Georgia Tech. I mean, Florida State's nationally ranked. Georgia Tech had a double bye. So I think if you end up with that, I think that'll be
one team hasn't made the tournament in over a decade, but I mean, you get what I'm saying. I mean, to say they're not Duke, Carolina, NC State, they're not one of your tradition-rich Virginia kind of programs. Well, now, Florida State, Leonard Hamilton is changing that, but this has not been a team that's like year in, year out has been one of your top teams in the league. They've had their spurts and not consistent, sustained success there.
Well, I mean, Florida State won the ACC last year and finished number 4 in the country. I mean, so I think you can do a whole lot worse than having the 4th-ranked team in the country in your conference tournament final. And again, maybe I'm in the minority. I know Georgia Tech has struggled some, but I was telling Cody this in the chat yesterday. I'm in awe of Georgia Tech's basketball tradition. Like I think it's dumbfounding, and we see it with football too, but I think it's crazy how little we appreciate Georgia Tech's basketball tradition. A program with Chris Bosh and Steph Marbury and Kenny Anderson and Dennis Scott, and again, add Moses Wright to that list. Now, if you're the ACC, Would you maybe rather have a North Carolina in there? Perhaps, but I think Florida State's been a national power over the last 10 years. And I think Georgia Tech certainly has the tradition and the history that almost any program in the country would love to have. In terms of, I think some of the momentum leading into the final has lost some energy when you think about the fact that Georgia Tech, had they made it in a traditional setting, would have beat the number 1 seed Virginia. Florida State, had the cancellations not happen, would have, albeit a rebuilding team, but still would have beaten Duke last night to advance to play North Carolina tonight. So it's an unfortunate reality of where we are. I do think it's something you have to, unfortunately take in stride and kind of understand is a reality that's out there. If Georgia Tech, for example, wins the ACC tournament, they still win the ACC tournament. You did what you could. And I think people will obviously understand that, hey, the environment was what it was. But at the end of the day, you hope for the best. You hope everybody's safe. You do what you can to protect, the health first and foremost of everybody. And you go out there and you play the games you can.
I mean, I always look at it different when you talk about the ACC. Obviously, you're going, when Duke it's not in the headlines, people going to say, how good can this ACC tournament be? But think about it, Kevin. Georgia Tech can stand up to most any team in college basketball because of the conference that they're in. So they getting judged for that. That's like, and they recruit the same. I mean, recruit very, very different. The McDonald's All-Americans are going to go to North Carolina and Duke first, and then hopefully Florida State don't even recruit in America. They getting all their players from overseas, and it's working. So, but I don't think coaches like Leonard Hamlin, those guys get their due praise, because look at what you up against. I got Virginia Tech, then I got Duke, then I got North Carolina, then we got a bye, then they got Clemson, who's also good. So I just think that because they beat each other up within the conference, I still think Georgia Tech can stand up against most teams out of conference, because if they do win the ACC tournament, right, wrong, indifferent, they won it. Because if Duke won it under these circumstances, nobody would say a word. You don't say nothing, because Duke is out and teams are having to forfeit because of COVID.
Again, a good team that Josh Pastner has here in 2021. We'll see if they get it done against whoever they play on Saturday night. On the other side of the coin here in the SEC, you had Georgia. They lose to Mizzou last night, 73-70. 3 seasons now with Tom Crean. BJ, where are we at in your mind with the evaluation there? 11-21 when he takes over, 16-16 2 seasons ago with Anthony Edwards, who's the number 1 pick in the draft, and then 14-12 in 2020 with a fairly light out of conference slate that they were able to get in, but not really a win of consequence, I guess, out of conference. Where do you see Tom Crean's program 7-11? Specifically in the SEC here in 2020. Is this moving in the right direction for Georgia? Can he get them there with the momentum he's got right now?
I mean, I think he can get them there. I think current results have been underwhelming. When you think about having Anthony Edwards and not making a national run, when you think about some of the other high-profile recruits you've had and not being elite. But I mean, Ben, we were talking about this. I mean, I don't say this to kind of take up for Tom Crean per se. I say this, I think sometimes programs are a reflection of the expectations. And I was joking with Cody about this yesterday on the chat. I mean, Georgia was playing in the SEC tournament yesterday, and 100 out of 100 Georgia fans are more concerned about spring practice. And I understand that. I mean, I'm not mad at that. I'm not arguing that. But if we're being honest, I mean, ask yourself, most Georgia football fans, either like Duke in basketball, like North Carolina in basketball, or don't like college basketball. And when that's the case, I don't know that there's going to be this great demand or this kind of infrastructure in place or this machine to churn out, the 20-win seasons every year. So I think Crean is underwhelmed a little bit, I guess what I'm getting at. And then I think a lot of the programs in the SEC have underwhelmed a little bit. I mean,
how does that message play when you look around and Alabama is in the national rankings? Auburn, Bruce Pearl have seen it turn around. You've seen some pretty non-traditional basketball programs find a lot of success here recently in college basketball.
Yeah, but not consistently, right? I mean, when I was in high school or college, I can't remember which, Mississippi State was in the Final Four. What's happened since? When I was in middle school, Arkansas was in the Final Four. What's happened since?
They're pretty good this year.
I mean, right, but I'm talking about consistent success, like what you've seen even out of, quote, if you want to say non-traditional powers in the ACC, like Virginia Tech and Florida State and Clemson. You look at the SEC, it's hard to maintain that. I know Kentucky's bad this year, but more often than not, it's Kentucky, it's Florida. And I think a lot of that is just because of people's interests and passions. And that's not bad. I'm asking you this, Ben. Alabama's in the top 10 right now. They're really, really good. Do people care more about the backup offensive guard battle in spring practice or Alabama's basketball season?
They don't even know who Alabama's head coach is in basketball.
That's kind of what I'm getting at.
And the thing is this. I mean, sometimes you look like Coach Tom Crean comes over, to Georgia. People going crazy, right? Oh, my God. I just seen Dwayne Wade with a Georgia jersey on. Look, Anthony Edwards came to Georgia because he knew he was going to be the number one pick no matter where he went. I'm going to be the number one pick. People like, man, we got the number one pick. What's his name? That's right. Because you don't know his name. I just think that, you know what the focus is at every single school, no matter what the college is. You go to Kansas to play basketball, right? You go to Georgia to play football. You go to Georgia Tech to play football and basketball. Because I just think that the prestige, and I thought Coach Crean was like, listen, man, I'm going to get Georgia back to, you're going to get Georgia back to what? Like, what are you getting them back to? So,
but I mean, let me ask you this, Kevin, and Ben, you too. Outside of Hugh Durham and Dominique Wilkins, I mean, I'm asking you, where has the either consistent success been, or where has the demand for consistent success been?
The only basketball player I ever known came through Georgia that I can remember was Fred Gibson. Why? Because he played football. I'm just saying, if I'm just being like, Georgia is not.
Bill Jarvis and Jonas Hayes. I mean, they made it to the league.
I'm just saying this, Kevin. I mean, look. Coach Crean was like, look, man, I want this challenge. You want the challenge of what? Man, I want to challenge Georgia basketball. What is that? The average Georgia football fan roots for Duke in basketball, and they will tell you that. I root for Duke in basketball.
Yeah, look, I hope I'm wrong because as a fan of a college basketball program that I grew up with when they were really, really struggling, dude, you got to stick with your boys. And I can appreciate if you're a Georgia basketball fan through some of the lean years, I can appreciate that. I mean, not all of us had our team go back-to-back and win national.
Whoa. But BJ, tell me this, though. Would you accept this? Todd Gurley, North Carolina native, he roots for Duke in basketball.
I mean, look.
How?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, Kevin, I may be wrong. Ask Christian because he's our resident Georgia fan. I just think it's interesting to start talking about expectations and has a coach done this and that, when I guess what I'm getting at, and I don't know, I'm asking the question, how much do people really care
about Georgia basketball?
I'm saying, I think inside the athletic departments, they're trying to make it where people care. But I mean, again, I will see. I'm agreeing with you, BJ, 100%.
I mean, I listen. I know people gonna think Ben always got something to say about Joe. No. I like Coach Crean. I love Dwayne. Dwayne Wade had. I mean, Jimmy Butler had on a Georgia jersey when Georgia was in the national championship. What is that called? That's called fake. That's what that's called. Get out of here with that nonsense, man.
We've got more to come here on 3 Now. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We'll talk some NFL. A lot of news breaking out of the NFL. Tom Brady's going to play till he's 100. I have no doubt. The kale shakes just keep him young. We'll get to that and more. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It is 3 and Out on this Friday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you are with us. Plenty of news in the National Football League today. A bunch of quarterback news as well as Cam Newton back with the Patriots, $14 million. Tom Brady, an extension with the Bucs through the 2022 season that saves the Bucs $19 million against the cap. So Tom Brady, another one of those guys, is a guy that says, look, I'll restructure. Let's keep everybody I need to win the Super Bowl here in Tampa. I'll make plenty away from the field, probably is what he's really thinking. But Tom Brady, Ben, I know we joke all the time about how old he is. But again, as somebody who went through the practices, and I realize Tom Brady's not getting hit in practice all the time, but the dude will be 45 at the end of this contract. I mean, how impressive is it that he's still not only playing, but really playing at a high level?
I mean, he's defying the odds. I mean, Tom Brady went up to Father Time, knocked on the door. He said hello. He knocked the hell out of him. Like, listen, I'm going to defy these things. And Tom Brady's doing what he's always done, right? People saying Tom Brady taking less money. He did that for 20 years in New England. And look at what it resulted in. So he said, why would I mess up a good thing? It's not, I am not counting Tom Brady's money, but he ain't broke. And do you know who he's married to? She makes more money than him. I'm just saying, Tom Brady, and at the same time, BJ, something we was talking about too, longevity for Tom Brady is making sure that those around him are good. He understands that, okay, I know that I'm not going to make it so that 52 guys can make millions of dollars, but if I got to take less so that they can get more, that's going to make everybody, and they can see the sacrifice I'm making when they know there aren't too many quarterbacks in the NFL that's done what I've done. They're going to do what I'm going to do. Plus, I brought that winning edge with me. I said, follow me, and I led you all the way to the promised land. So, and Tampa Bay is doing something 23, 24. They're going to have dead money, but they just 1 year with Tom Brady, Super Bowl. So they said, all right, let's go all in for 2021, 2022 and see if we can go, at three-peat. I'm just impressed by Tom Brady because he's making sacrifices, and I'm talking about his money for the greater good of his teammates so that he can try to make everybody happy. And it shows why he is who he is. He has the respect he has. And dare I say, them Tampa Bay boys, they're going to be trying to run it back.
I mean, unless I'm misinterpreting this, reading between the lines, Kevin, or is this a Bobby Bonilla type scenario where theoretically the Bucs could be paying Tom Brady as a retired player with him kind of still on payroll? I mean, is that what we're looking at?
I don't know if it works like that. From what I understand, with like the voided years is you would push it out and it would count against your cap. I'm sure if they cut Tom Brady, there would either be some kind of a lump sum payout or something like that to make him go away. I don't think they're going to keep money, but in terms of cap hit, it extends that out down the road. So in that essence, they are pushing money down the road against their cap to keep Tom Brady on the team because, well, I mean, how many more years do you think Tom Brady's got? Tampa Bay you might have 1 or 2 more, and that's it.
But that's what I'm asking is if money is being deferred for a couple of years down the line, let's say after this season he wins the Super Bowl and retires. So 10 months from now, Tom Brady's retired. The Bucs still owe him money, correct?
I don't know. I don't know if they'll still owe him money, but they will have dead money. I mean, because the whole thing about these contracts is you got to look at fully guaranteed. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Carson Wentz still is going to have like $20 million on against the cap for Philly this year, and he's gotten moved too. So what Tampa Bay is doing is Tampa Bay is saying, look, I mean, we've had dead money before, right? And won nothing. If we got to have some dead money, 2023 and 2024, so that we can have money now to win, BJ, I think is a smart move. But they're only doing that because Tom Brady has proven to win a Super Bowl. They're not doing this for like when people go, why don't Atlanta do this? Why other teams aren't winning Super Bowls? So they're not going to do that. They're trying to get money off, dead money off the cap. But yeah, Tom Brady's doing what he's supposed to do. Shout out to Cam Newton too, man. Everybody was like, oh, what Cam? I mean, they must know something. They must have saw something we didn't see last year because New England got money to spend this year. They giving Cam 1 year, $14 million. That's pretty good for a former MVP. And to all the people saying that Cam Newton can't play football no more, I just question you as an individual because Cam Newton can play. He was on a bad team. How many quarterbacks, when healthy, are better than Cam? Not named Tom Brady, not named, the top 10, top 10 players at the position. So shout out to Cam. And BJ, I saw some New England. They played Carolina this year at Carolina. Yeah, we might want to try to check that one out. I'm just saying, should be a good one.
That one could get interesting to say the least. Falcons also in the news. They re-signed Young Wei Koo. I think that was kind of a no-brainer. BJ with what he was able to do for them in the last couple years. Also say they're working on restructuring Jake Matthews' contract, which we knew some of that was going to have to happen. Ben and I talked earlier in the week about, hey, when you're X amount over the cap, you got to start restructuring guys that you want to keep because you just can't cut everybody or you won't have anybody, left. So it looks like the Falcons starting to work on their math game to try to get everybody settled down so they can move on towards the draft and see what they can do in free agency.
And I'll reiterate what I said yesterday, and I will preface this by saying I am struggling to understand the nature of restructuring, but on the surface, some of it makes me nervous because correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, some of it feels like you are basically adding debt for the future when you have no idea what the future will entail, what type of roster you'll have, what your expectations will be, how good of a team you will be in order to, quote, make it work for this season. And I understand part of that is a reality of the sport you have to navigate, but the idea of just saying, oh, we'll figure out a way to make it work for 2021 and we'll figure out how much damage that does to us in 2022, 2023, if I'm understanding it correctly, for every team. I'm not talking about the Jags or the fact that it's an idea that kind of makes me a little nervous.
Oh, well, BJ, I think that's why it should make you nervous because every team does it. There's a reason every team has a guy that is employed and their sole job is to sit there and calculate cap money. I mean, it's like, really? Yes, there's a guy in every team whose job is to do nothing but look at potential moves, other moves, off-season moves, and say, how does this affect our cap space? That's all they do for the team. So it would make me nervous, but everybody does it. I mean, you get to the end of next year, what are 30 teams going to be doing? Hey, the Super Bowl's over. After they say I'm going to Disney World, everybody's going, about 42 million over the cap. We're going to have to do something. We're at 10 million. So that doesn't make me nervous. That's just the way business gets done. And I think if it was a detriment to the players necessarily, I think the players, as Ben said, if I'm wrong, are just getting more money in terms of a bonus or something like that to make sure they get it. Because if it was doing wrong by the players, I think you'd see the Players Association go, wait a minute, either get your cap number right or quit telling us to restructure deals every single offseason so that you can figure out the math. So I think it's working for everybody. I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's just the price of doing business, maximizing every last dollar to get your roster together.
Yeah, when you hear the term restructure, that means one or two things. Either we're going to front load some of that back load money that we was going to give you so that you can stay on the team, or you're going to get cut. It doesn't mean you're going to take less. People hear restructure, you're going to take less. No, like you take Jake Matthews, he was going to make, I don't know, just say he was going to make $16 million this year salary. So instead of making $16 million salary, they'll say take $13 million and give it to him in a signing bonus. That way he'll make $3 million up against the cap this year. He still got his money, but they just get listen, I love the word restructure for players. That means I'm getting my money now. Like I'm getting my money now. Now sometimes they're gonna ask you to take less money, but that also lets you know your level of importance on the team. If they're trying to restructure your deal, that means they want to keep you around. Emmanuel Sanders, he thought he was going up to the front office and restructure. No, man, we appreciate it. You out of here. Because it's going to be casualties. And BJ, I know people say, well, why don't they just do that in the beginning? Because you got to play a player according to where he is potential-wise in the market. Then down the line, I told y'all, there is 0% chance Patrick Mahomes will play out that 10-year contract. It's not going to happen. I don't care how much they love Patrick Mahomes. They ain't giving him $500 million. I don't care who he is and what he is. So, but yeah, restructuring is a good thing, BJ. Plus, that's what Terry Fontenot is there to do, to get them under that cap so they can sign people.
We've got more to come here on 3 and Out on this Friday afternoon, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. Love to hear from you on Twitter as well, at Pigskin Radio. It's 3 and Out on this Friday afternoon. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you are with us. We will hear from Matt Ray, talking some Tennessee football with him coming up in hour number 2, VR2 on SI.com. He will join us here on the program. We'll get to take 3 next hour as well and look in the final hour. Who could be that next Clemson that kind of is waiting to emerge onto the scene? So we'll get to that coming up later on the show as well, but some college basketball. Ben, your Gators in the SEC tournament right now, losing by 15 to Tennessee. So 46-31. I know we'll see the nightcap of the SEC games tonight. ACC had one of their semifinal games canceled due to a COVID protocol in Virginia's program. Florida State, North Carolina play tonight. The Big 12 also had a game canceled due to COVID protocols there in the Kansas program, BJ and Ben. So college basketball rolling right along here on a Friday.
I hate to even. I mean, the fact that my Gators even made it to this round is very, very impressive for the simple fact that we had 2 of our starters late to shoot around against Vanderbilt, and we scratched and clawed to beat them. You know how storied that program is at Vanderbilt. Woo! We had to scratch and claw to beat them boys. So the fact that even Florida is an up and down program. They get the benefit of the doubt in the SEC like a Kentucky does year in and year out. It ain't always because of what they're doing on the court, but yeah, I expect this thing to come to an end against Vandy. Maybe Tennessee can take me out of my misery because I'm tired of these dudes year in and year out doing this nonsense. Sorry, I'm gonna be honest. I get sick of it, man. I mean, I had to deal with Florida Twitter, and when it comes to basketball, it is rough because these unrealistic expectations that Billy Donovan has made, it's not going to happen. Billy D is not coming back. Move on. Sorry.
Who's Florida's current coach, Ben?
Coach White, and he's ridiculous.
Look, man. I mean this with all the love in the world. It's SEC basketball, and if Kentucky's terrible and Florida's okay. I mean, Kevin, I'll ask you straight up because I'm not trying to look. I like SEC basketball when there's more parity and it's more competitive. I respect what Alabama's doing, but do you have like an internal drive to just follow the theater and drama of the SEC basketball tournament this year?
I mean, I enjoy tournament time in any conference because there's drama in it.
Who's your favorite player in the SEC this year?
Who's your favorite player in the West Coast Conference? There's intrigue there.
No, I'm talking about the SEC. Who's your favorite player in the SEC this year?
Do I have to have one? Can I just watch it? Oh, you have to know the whole roster in order to enjoy it.
I asked you to name one player in the league.
No. But I said, look, I just enjoy it for the intrigue and the drama of teams one and done. I don't care who's playing. That's the whole point. That's what March is all about. It doesn't matter. It's win or go home.
I'm just saying, compared to years past, for me, I think there's less intrigue, less parity, less star power this year. I'm not saying there's not good players. I'm saying, if I'm being honest, compared to years prior, it doesn't feel like this is a vintage year for SEC basketball.
There are a lot of conferences out there as well.
I mean, listen, Kevin, tell him your favorite player should be Sharif O'Neal, the son of Shaquille O'Neal at LSU. He ain't doing nothing, but at least he's there. Yeah.
Hey, we'll see. Florida's cut it is 47-34. A little bit there, Ben. We'll see how they finish up. And we've got another hour to go. We'll take 3 right around the corner. Also, Matt Ray will join us. We'll talk some SEC football with him in hour number 2 here as well. Love to hear from you on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. You can also see us live streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And if you missed any portion of the show, you can hit all of those places, plus Spotify, Apple Podcasts, get a podcasted version of the show. It's 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, thanks for being with us here. Hour number 2, we'll hear from Matt Ray, VR2 on SI.com. Will join us. We'll talk to him about Tennessee football. Who's even there for spring football? We'll talk to him about that after the number of transfers they've had at season's end, and certainly the coaching carousel that ultimately led to Josh Heupel becoming the head coach there at Tennessee. So he'll join us coming up in about 30 minutes. But first, let's take 3 here on 3 and Out. All right, fellas, take 1. Thomas Davis. Ben, I know you talked a lot about Thomas Davis on the show. He retired, had a very interesting suit, by the way. Did you see the photos of this, Ben?
Yeah. He
had his number, yeah.
Like made it to a jacket, which is pretty smooth.
What again? Now that he has retired, what is your lasting legacy of Thomas Davis in the National Football League?
He's gonna make a strong case. When you talk about the linebacker position, definitely Carolina. I mean, and I think because 3 back-to-back torn ACLs, and then still went on to have the career he had, right beside Luke Kuechly. I mean, just about as good as you can play the linebacker position, BJ, year in and year out. I mean, you forget the fact that he had 3 straight torn ACL seasons to stick it out, go through what he had to go through, and I never saw what it took for him to even get on the field day in and day out as far as like the training room. But when I think about linebackers at Carolina, Sam Mills, Dan Morgan, Luke Kuechly, Thomas Davis, and to me that's some very, very unique company when you talk about the linebacker play that they got. I mean, Sam Mills has a statue of him out front. I don't think that Thomas Davis gonna have a statue, but for me, when I think about that great Carolina team, they had Cam Newton on offense, they had Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis on defense, one of the best duos I've ever seen. So, yeah, Thomas Davis, as good as advertised, man. I mean, still has some football left in him. But the fact that Carolina gave him and Greg Olsen, by the way, their own that one-day contract, that's how you treat some of your best players that ever come through the position. But congratulations to that man on a hell of a career.
Yeah, Ben, I know, you competed against Thomas Davis and had some great moments with him. I think of the player, yes, but I think of the person. You think about his resume, potentially a Hall of Fame resume, maybe when you think about all that he's done, played in 200 career games. But I think of the fact that 2014, Walter Payton Man of the Year. We all know what that award means, what it represents, what it takes to win that award. Then a couple of years later, 2016, the Bart Starr Award. That award is given annually to an NFL player who, quote, best exemplifies outstanding character and leadership in the home, on the field, and in the community. And nominees are gathered from the PR staff of each team in the NFL. So I think about him being a leader. Think about him being a championship player, an elite player in terms of his game on the field, but also as a person off the field. And I think those two things are synonymous when you think about Thomas Davis.
Moving along, take 2 at the Players' Championship. Lucky number 17, 35 players dunked one yesterday, including Byong An hit a octuple bogey, which is an 11. 3 other players carded at least an 8. Why did they just listen to Rich and just hit it in the middle of the green? There's a great video, by the way, on social media of like 3 straight minutes of dudes dunking it in the water at 17. All of them going for the pins. Like, just put it up there, putt for your par. Why don't they listen to our guy?
Well, I mean, this is something I don't understand, and I'll need your clarification on, Kevin, because from what I gather, this is challenging, but it's largely challenging because of the psychological aspect. And what I mean by that is, if you were to draw a circle around the island green and fill everything else where there's water with grass and say, hey, could you pro golfers get it within this circle now that there's grass everywhere? A lot of them would be able to, because a lot of them do that on pars like that regularly when there isn't an island. So if the challenge is not physical, but psychological, and you're one of the best at what you do in the whole world, I think you have to embrace that pressure and go after it and attack. I mean, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Tom Brady, these guys didn't say, well, what's a way that I can kind of get around the hard challenge and maybe do it a little easier where I can try to do it incrementally instead of just going for the gusto? No, you're one of the best golfers in the world. It's something that you can do with your game in terms of the physiological challenge of getting it within that circle. If you're psyching yourself out, I get it, I understand it, but I think you got to embrace the challenge and attack it.
Sounds like Tin Cup to me. One of my favorite movies. I mean, Kevin Costner, listen, man, what are you doing? No, man, Pride. That's what Pride does. See, Kevin, the thing is this. Yeah, you the best players in the world. I don't want to look like, man, I'm just, like doing, taking advantage of an opportunity to not, look elite. Dude, you looking ridiculous. That's what y'all doing. And y'all just show why people love golf. Dang, man. I mean, see, they look just like me. No, just listen to Rich. Because what happens is, Kevin, in these type of situations, we know the 17th is coming up. Look, man, listen. The easy way from point A to point B is a straight line. Whatever that straight line is going to be for you in golf, deal with it. Move on. It's one hole. Because when you look like you're going to do, you're going to have to hear about it every day. Hey, man, good job. But what happened? What happened with the Sawgrass? Well, you look ridiculous. Like, pros didn't look like pros. Didn't one guy get like a mercy? I'm just saying.
No, there's no mercy rule. I like guys looking not like pros. I love this. I mean, that to me, this is amazing. Because the greens are hard and they're fast. I mean, you have guys hit, and you're like, you hear the announcers as it rolls towards the edge. They're like, oh no! And it's
Ken, this is what I'm asking you. I just look. It's a par 3, right, and it's 130 yards.
Right.
So I'm asking this. I don't know. I don't even fully understand the rules of golf. But for a 130-yard shot, normally guys would not try to set it up during the middle for that, right?
No, I mean, but again, you're on a small green. The pin placement yesterday was kind of towards the back. Very small portion of the green to land it on. You have wind. A lot of times I know that deals with it where the ball gets up in the air and then it moves. So that adds a challenge.
Isn't the green on every par 3 like relatively small? I mean, it's not like
necessarily.
It's a par 3. I mean, so it's not like you have, the kind of suggestion from the course designer to lay it up. You're kind of supposed to attack, right, based on the par.
Usually, but I mean, that's what makes this one a challenge. Is you got to work your way through it. That's what when you play golf at that level, you got to think your way through the golf course. Like, hey, this might not be a time where I need to go after it. Just get it up there and let's move on. And again, we've seen. I mean, you drop an 11 on the PGA Tour, that's a lot. You're not coming back from that. You're done. I mean, pretty much. I mean, so I enjoy it. To me, it's why it's one of the fans' favorite holes, is because guys will try to go for it. It may not be the smartest move all the time. Sometimes you hit a good shot and you don't get rewarded for it because of the way the green. And again, if you saw the pin placement yesterday, kind of to the back. So if you went behind the pin, there was not a lot of room until you were in the water. So there's really no rough to speak of to slow the ball up. So it's a challenging hole. And I if it's me and I'm not on the PGA Tour, I'm hitting to the fattest part of the green, even if it's 50 feet away from the hole, if I can get it there, just so I get it on and move on. And but yeah, I enjoy watching pros struggle. It's one of my favorite things, especially when it comes to majors in golf. The idea is for them to struggle. If it looks too easy, it's like, come on, man. I know you guys are good, but geez, let's see. Part of what we enjoy watching about, like LeBron James and Tom Brady, is they make the hard stuff look easy. And, when we know it's hard, see you work. Let's see you challenge yourself a little bit. That being said, moving along, take 3. March Madness coming up. We'll know the tournament field on Sunday. A little bit different format this year, as the first round is going to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, instead of the traditional Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday format. But you always get some great matchups here. What is your favorite college basketball jersey when it comes to March Madness?
I mean, I mentioned this the other day when we were doing the jersey talk, and I thought it was predominantly about football, but I had to get it in there. Dude, North Carolina's jersey, when you talk about the baby blue, Ben, I know you like their football uniforms. I know you have a couple of jerseys, including the Gators, who have the Jumpman, but I think the Jumpman's a little more meaningful, a little more relevant at North Carolina, given that that's where Michael Jordan played. I think those baby blues with kind of the diamond design down the side, the white and blue, Jordan, the history, the tradition. I'll say North Carolina. Now, in terms of college basketball jersey, and Kevin, I'll admit it, I don't know enough to know that if they're even in or not, but UCLA's jersey is awesome too. Now, I don't know if they're going to be in this tournament. I haven't been following a lot of UCLA basketball lately, but again, the classic look, the clean look, the history that jumps off the page when you see it. So I'll say for me, the two top basketball jerseys are UCLA and North Carolina.
I mean, listen, BJ, I don't want to hear your mouth. I do not want to hear your mouth because you're gonna be like, that is not one of the. No, of course, in North Carolina. I mean, that's always the easy choice. But and it's not because they're in our listening area and they listen. The all gold Georgia Techs with the blue numbers. The whole, but top and bottom all gold. It's something about right before the game. I like the guys that tuck in their jersey. Like it's like they know, all right, Georgia Tech, and they tuck them in. That all goal is smooth, man. I mean, because it's almost like you're saying, look, dude, we do this for real, baby. Look good, feel good. Let's go out here and hoop. I mean, I think it's kind of go back to the fact that I did get recruited by Georgia Tech. Shut up, Kevin. Shut up, BJ. And, I never ever got a chance to really wear those colors, man. But for me, giving them Georgia Tech's all gold top and bottoms, man, smooth. Listen, shoes got to be now, this is the only time you can have on all white shoes, but you got to have all white on white socks. It's time to ride. It's time to go out there.
I mean, Ben, while we're talking about all the schools you were recruited by, there's a team in Tallahassee that has gold jerseys. BJ, that's why I wanted to stay away from it. Go ahead and Cody show the all gold. Yeah, Florida State. No, I'm just saying, BJ, all gold solid with the white number. Hey, G Tech, they nice. But I don't know if they were
the UCLA. I think they got the powder blue ones.
Yes.
Oh my God, those are nice too.
Those are nice, and I don't know what they wore against. I heard it on the radio and was following it on GameCast. I didn't see it, but Georgia Tech when they played Miami. Now Miami will wear some nice unis. Miami has the all black with the orange and green U. It doesn't say Miami; it just has the U on the chest. That is nice. That is good looking. But yeah, the traditional powers. UCLA, that's a standard setter. North Carolina, that's a standard setter. Oh, that's old school right there. Okay, that's old school. That's clean. That's serious. That's back in the day though. But yeah, I would say those. Kevin, are we missing anybody?
I would think just for the newness, if you're not a traditionalist, the highlighter green Baylor and Oregon uniforms are also. I find when they're offset on the basketball court, they look better than if you go highlighter green up against grass on football turf. But that's just me. I don't mind them as much in basketball.
And listen, and if we are doing gold, that off gold, that them all, it's not really gold. That they're all kind of like goldish. Michigan when they wear they all, it's not gold. That's like yellowish.
Beige.
That's not gold at all.
I'm sorry, color connoisseur, color historian, Mays. Then I'm just saying. BJ like that's not gold at all. Gold is Georgia Tech or Florida State or no.
Hey man, what about Syracuse out there, man? Syracuse with the bright orange. I know you like the bright. Oh God, good.
Sometimes you got to know who you are. You just got to know who you are, and if you know who you are, that's gonna make you be better on in the future. We probably and listen, and that was probably right after a timeout. We probably lost that game.
Let's take three. We do it every day at this time. We'll come back. More to come. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben on this Friday. Thanks for being with us. Streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com, live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube as well. You can catch the show. Send us your thoughts at Pigskin Radio, Love to hear from you. We'll talk with Matt Ray of VR2 on SI. We'll talk some Vols football as Tennessee gets ready for spring practice, as Josh Heupel has rounded out his coaching staff and a lot of experience there on that side of the ball, where the Vols stand coming into the spring season. We'll get to that coming up in just a little bit. But yesterday we kind of reminisced about the 1 year anniversary of sports getting shut down and what what all happened there. What did you use to fill that entertainment gap? Because we went a while there where sports, did not happen. So it was me and Christian talking a lot about basket weaving. What was our favorite kind of s'more, all that kind of stuff. But what got you through the lockdown? Because I know obviously there was a lot of things that people tried to do to fill the time with no sports.
I mean, y'all play like a nightly team video game thing, right?
Yes, me, Cody, and Christian. PJ, when he graces us with his presence, we'll jump on and we'll play Call of Duty.
Y'all are like on the same team?
Yeah. Yeah, we play against other people from wherever they might be. Yeah, wherever they might be, yeah.
It's
fun. It's fun.
I mean, for me, listen, I love Last Chance U. I mean, I'm a Last Chance U junkie. I mean, and the thing about it is they moved it to they went from what? They was in Alabama, then they was in Iowa, then I was in California. They got Last Chance U basketball now. I mean, because for me, I can like resonate with a lot of those players trying to be able to go out there, BJ and Kevin. This is their last chance to be able to like fulfill their athletic dreams. They've obviously had some difficulties in the past to land in wherever they landed. Don't lack talent, may lack a little discipline, may lack a little structure. And once again, I don't know what it is about watching cooking shows. I can't cook a lick. I cook maybe BJ, and I like to go out there and I like to go out there and just watch like the guy to be doing this with his hand when he be dropping out. You don't know who that is, BJ. The guy to be dropping out a little seasoning. The guy to be cutting up the meat. Guy Fieri, and diners, drive-ins, and dives. I mean, I be on it now in my mind, and I be trying to figure out how close are some of these places to where we live. So BJ, maybe we could take your new whip, take Kevin's cash, and we good. We can eat wherever we want. I mean, money is nothing to Kevin, by the way, people. I haven't said that enough in 2021. There's money, and then there's Kevin's money. Kevin heard that, Cam Newton signed for 1 year, $14 million. We're like this, man, I laugh at that. That's nothing to me. So I'm just saying, for me, BJ, Last Chance U, cooking shows, just in case I want to start my own little cooking show. You can be my taste tester, right? You wouldn't mind.
I mean, I cook way better than you. I've tried to make meals for you. You won't even eat them. I try to.
Whoa. You talking about the time you cooked the sausage in the little thing and ate them all? Like you ate them all?
And I told you this the other day. Guess who made scrambled eggs last week?
Listen, let me help you understand something. Scrambled eggs ain't nothing but taking a fork and stirring it once you crack them. But can you make an omelet?
I mean, I'm sorry, I wasn't asked to make an omelet. I was approached by.
Can you do it?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I haven't tried things that I haven't tried.
No.
I was approached by my kids, and I was the only adult here, and they said we have to have scrambled eggs. I said, well, look, I've never done it, but I'm willing to give it a shot, and I did it.
Whoa, you had never made eggs up until the other day?
I haven't had a reason to make eggs.
Living?
I mean,
I'm sorry. So you have to eat scrambled eggs to live?
No.
I mean, at some point, somebody will stumble across an egg at some point in their house and potentially eat it.
No. Never before in the history of my life, up until last week, has anyone ever come to me and said, "Will you please make me scrambled eggs?" I am not a huge egg. Like eggs are fine. Like I don't walk around with a desire to eat scrambled eggs. I don't feel what.
You had never made scrambled eggs before?
Okay, again, I want to explain this again so everybody understands. Never before in the history of my life had anyone come up to me and said, will you make me scrambled eggs? I don't consider myself someone that has cravings for scrambled eggs. I don't eat what the earth or the ether kind of demands that Kevin Thomas thinks we all need to eat to advance humanity with. I eat what I have cravings for. I have not had cravings for scrambled eggs. So given that I have A, never had cravings for scrambled eggs, B, never had anyone ask me to make scrambled eggs, why would I have made scrambled eggs?
Good God. So what were your cravings?
I crave salad and I crave steak sometimes. And I crave and I can't have a lot of it because it's high in sugar, but I honest to God crave orange juice a lot.
Salad, steak, orange juice. Nobody ever asked you to make eggs. You learn stuff all the time. What about hot dogs? Can you make those? You haven't had the craving?
Well, don't hot dogs come pre-cooked? You just got to put them in the microwave?
You put them in the microwave?
Yeah.
What?
They're already cooked. They've already been cooked through.
You put them in water and you wait on the water to boil and wait on them to bust open.
There are multiple ways to heat up things, right? Like hot dogs, when you get them pre-packaged, they're already cooked through. So you need to just put them in the microwave to get warm.
Good Lord. So if your children say, "Daddy, we want hot dog," all right.
No, my kids don't eat meals with me. They eat meals at my parents' house.
So if you made hot dogs for the group, that came out of a microwave.
Hold on, what's the group?
The station.
I'm not preparing anything for y'all.
No. You said ain't nobody asked you to make it. Hey, BJ, we're asking you to make us hot dogs. We're hungry. Where the microwave?
No, look, so people understand kind of my wife doesn't eat a whole lot. She's very specific of what she eats, and she cooks what she eats. My kids, I'll come out during the show meeting. My son will be cooking stuff just straight up anyway, but they eat a lot at my parents' house, and I will prepare what they ask. But in terms of having this great diversified cooking ability, no, I do not have that, but I haven't been presented with that opportunity or challenge.
Just to be clear, because words mean things. Do you think that putting hot dogs in water means you are diversified in cooking?
No, that's a different way. That's how you can heat up hot dogs.
But you ain't never put no hot dogs in water before. Just to be clear, that's not how you eat yours.
In the history of my life, I may have done that before.
So if you make noodles, the noodles that come in a little pack, with the sauce.
You talking about ramen noodles?
Do you put those in the microwave or do you put them over the stove?
Oh, I buy the noodles that already have the little styrofoam cup, and you just fill it up with water and put it in the microwave.
I'm just learning all this stuff from a person who ate dry vegetables with salsa.
Oh yeah, dried vegetables are the best. You can get like broccoli heads, cauliflower, carrots. You don't even have to cook that stuff per se. That's the beauty of you can eat vegetables just like people eat chips.
Yeah, you go find it on www.nasty.com. That's nasty.
100% of the time. We'll come back. Matt Ray will join us. We'll switch gears from just, I don't know what, to talking Vols football. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. And it's great to be here on this Friday. College football always in the news. You got some FCS football this weekend, continuing here in the spring. Also, spring practices popping up all over the place. Certainly, Rocky Top going to be interesting to see what Josh Heupel has in store. And joining us here from VR2 on SI.com, covering the Vols, Matt Ray joins us here on 3 and Out. Matt, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, guys. Doing great. How are y'all?
Fantastic. Josh Heupel obviously has had to work quick to get his coaching staff together, got his defensive staff rounded out, loaded with guys who have been around the SEC. What do you make, before we talk about on the field, of in short order the staff that Josh Heupel's been able to put together?
Yeah, I think when you look at what Josh Heupel was able to do in such a short period of time, I don't think he could have done any better from a defensive staff standpoint. Bringing in guys with an SEC background, SEC recruiting background, 4 out of the 5 guys have been coordinators. So, just really what he needed in terms of assembling a defensive staff that's willing and high energy to work with his offensive staff and up-tempo style play in Knoxville.
I was going to say, Matt, when you step into the SEC as a head coach and the challenge is obviously immense in front of you, we all think about, I think, staffs from a recruiting standpoint, but just in terms of the day-to-day grind and the schemes from your coordinators and kind of being there as your counterbalance, how vital can some of these additions be?
Yeah, ultimately, I think at every position, he made an upgrade from Jeremy Pruitt's staff. And when you think about that, it's kind of strange to say, given the SEC background and everything that Jeremy Pruitt had. But you look at Rodney Garner, and you can't talk about a more vital addition than him. A guy that put 2 guys in the NFL draft last year inside the top 50 pick, with Derek Brown coming at number 7 overall and Marlon Davidson coming off in the 40s. A known elite recruiter. Brian Jean-Marie from Michigan come into the state of Tennessee last year, stole the top linebacker, one of the top linebackers in the country, Junior Colson. He brings a really unique experience. Tim Banks has held the coordinator title for 14 years, although he hasn't been calling plays all those times. Willie Martinez brings in, another SEC footprint. Mike Eckler spent time at Georgia, a guy that's just through the roof with energy, considered one of the best special teams coordinators in the country. So you can't underestimate those things when you're Josh Heupel and you're stepping into what is already not an ideal situation in Knoxville, given the unknowns with the sanctions and the roster and everything else that's going on. It's key for him to have that on the defensive side of the ball, because obviously 4 out of the 5 hires that he brought to Knoxville for his offensive staff had been working with him at UCF, or he had a previous relationship with him outside of Jerry Mack. So for Josh Heupel to be able to get some guys that know the lay of the land, can get out on the recruiting trail, can answer the tough questions, it's vital.
And, man, obviously when you look at some of those hires that you just mentioned, with most being on the defensive side of the ball, what Heupel brings with an offense. But this is an offense that got to get his footing in the SEC. How much is Heupel willing to let defense kind of lead the way, especially with dealing with some of these high-powered offenses, while kind of giving his offense a chance to take shape?
Can you say that for me one more time?
I was just saying that when you think about some of these hires that he had more on the defensive side of the ball, is Josh Heupel willing to allow maybe defense to lead the way, even though he's known for offense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Josh, there's several pieces that Josh Heupel can use offensively in terms of what he wants to do, but defensively, the roster's thin, but it's full of young talent, and they have a chance to really mold some guys into what they want to do in terms of, especially on the back end, and being aggressive and being multiple like Tim Banks wants to do. And I think when you look at these hires, they mesh pretty well in terms of schemes and ideas and the energy that they're going to bring day in and day out. And with Tennessee's last staff, you didn't have that. You had guys that were either going to go out and recruit, but might be a liability as a coach, or vice versa. For Josh Heupel, I think in terms of on the field, he has a chance to make a splash with these defensive hires, and it may surprise some people, even though his offense has been the focal point since he took over at Tennessee.
On 3-9, certainly talking about offense, what can you tell us about Hendon Hooker? Big transfer there from Virginia Tech. Where's he looking going into spring? Is he going to be the focal point leading the offense, or is he in a battle here to earn the starting job?
Hendon Hooker was a great addition for Jeremy Pruitt at the time. Had a quarterback, really needed one from the transfer portal with experience and ideally dual threat. That's what Jeremy Pruitt was, hoping to add. And for Josh Heupel, that's what Hendon Hooker still adds. He's a guy that's big, has played a lot of games, run, can throw the football. Going into spring, I think the room is open for everybody. Tennessee has been pretty transparent about that. When publicly speaking and behind the scenes speaking, they have, let everybody know what their idea is for them. And it really looks like it'll be a Hendon Hooker, Harrison Bailey battle. And I know when you look at Josh Heupel's offense the last couple of years at UCF, he's relied a little bit more on a dual threat guy, but he and Joey Hall both talked about in their introductory press conferences how important it is for somebody to, one, be able to pick up the system and run it the way you want, and two, to be accurate. And when you start talking about that, Harrison Bailey already has some continuity with the guys that are there, and he's known for his accuracy, and it's going to be a battle between he and Hendon Hooker going into the spring, and most likely that battle won't end up until fall camp is over. There probably won't be a starter named until week 1.
I mean, looking ahead, Matt, with that Hooker-Bailey battle, is there a chance that Heupel is comfortable rotating quarterbacks through the fall and kind of going with the hot hand, or do you think he's committed to having essentially one starting quarterback, at least for the majority of the season?
No, I don't think we'll see a revolving door like there was at the quarterback position with Jeremy Pruitt. I mean, I think you saw say 6 or 7 different guys start in a 2-year span at quarterback for Jeremy Pruitt. I don't think you'll see that with Josh Heupel, just, given his track record. But I do certainly think he would be comfortable rotating quarterbacks if need be. And from everything I've gathered, I think both of these guys understand that, there's going to be opportunities for both of them. And if Harrison Bailey wins the job, certainly there's going to be goal line situations and red zone packages for Hendon Hooker. And Bailey's going to get his opportunities as well. So, yeah, I think for both of those guys, the door's never going to be closed to get on the field and get the opportunity to start.
You on SI.com joining us here on 3 and Out. Glad you were able to join us, Matt. We appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Yeah, guys, I enjoyed it. Thank y'all.
Hey, appreciate it. Matt Ray joining us here on 3 and Out as Tennessee getting ready for spring ball. And again, quarterback battle there. Some news this afternoon that maybe a couple of their players, 3 arrested on drug charges in an on-campus incident. So, again, Josh Heupel walking into a tough spot. You had a number of guys in the transfer portal on their way out, trying to rebuild a program. Again, I guess it all starts in spring, Ben, but you got a lot of work to do there on Rocky Top to bring it all back together.
Yeah, and obviously it's unfortunate when you talk about the breaking news with these young men on campus that they still dealing with. They lost every good player they had, BJ. When you talk about all the guys that moved on in the transfer portal, you talk about Hendon Hooker, a guy who was obviously looking to come to a Tennessee team that was loaded with talent. It's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. And the thing is, we talking about a team that's been rebuilding for the last 10 years. They got to start over again, and with a new offense, new head coach, new coordinators. And who do you have? I mean, the thing is, you're going to talk about a team that's not going to have any recognizable players from the previous year, and your best player might be a transfer that's going to have to battle, in the spring for a job. But, I am still wishing the best for a Tennessee program that deserves better than they've been given. I mean, Heupel is the guy that BJ definitely seems to want the job, but wanting the job and getting the job is different. And now he's going to see what it's like to be the head coach at Tennessee when you're not even inheriting a solid foundation for which that's what you would hope for. But that's why you make the big dollars. That's why you're able to go out there and hopefully, right the ship. But BJ, dare I say, it's going to be much of the same in 2021.
Well, and yeah, in terms of the breaking news this afternoon, we'll have to wait and see kind of what that is. Adam Rittenberg, ESPN, reporting 3 Tennessee football players arrested on drug charges after on-campus incident. So we'll have to kind of wait and see what plays out there. But yeah, the identity of Tennessee in 2021 is yet to be determined. And I do think Josh Heupel was a good hire. I do think he's put together a really good staff. I do think they have good options at quarterback. But Ben, you are right. I'm not sure that the college football community kind of fully appreciates the talent that has left Knoxville in terms of the transfer portal, in terms of guys moving on. And I think you may even be limited from a sheer numbers capacity, because keep in mind, even if you lose 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 extra guys through the transfer portal, you can only bring in 25 scholarship players a year. So we'll see how the numbers shake out with guys coming back and the I guess free year of eligibility. But I think Tennessee may have to have some walk-ons, provide some depth right now. And this does not mean this won't be the case or that this will be the case, in 6 months. But right now, I don't really know who the stars are. You know, you think about Ty Chandler and Eric Gray and Jared Guarantano and Wanya Morris. I mean, those guys are gone now. So you're going to have to find who your new leadership core is, who your new playmakers are. And I think it may be a long season in Knoxville. We'll see. You never know. But I think it may be a long season for the Vols.
We've got more to come here on this Friday. It is 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. Good to have you here on this Friday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio, as we look ahead to the final hour. Who could be the next Clemson program out there who kind of springs in and takes over the playoffs and propels themselves to a championship? We'll get to that coming up in the final hour of the program. Also, another big week. It's a football Friday here on the show. I know Christian likes to give me grief about that, but we do have football this weekend. FCS style. Some big games. We'll break those down coming up on the docket there in the final hour of the program as we are, a couple weeks in here to the FCS schedule. So we'll look at that coming up in the final hour. Also, college basketball. We'll have one game in the ACC tonight, one game in the Big 12. SEC continuing to work through here in the quarterfinals. They'll have their semifinals, at least for now, all scheduled to go on tomorrow. So a lot of basketball, and again, counted down towards Sunday where we'll get the full field announced.
And Alabama looking the part today, basically doubled up Mississippi State, Tennessee moving on past Florida, and the ACC tournaments had a couple of cancellations now. I mean, I do think we're entering into the NCAA tournament excited about what could be, hopeful. But I mean, Kevin, you mentioned it. There's got to be at least a fear in the back of your mind that what we've seen, unfortunately, in these conference tournaments could be replicated on the national scale. And I guess it's the only thing you can do, kind of obviously keep safety paramount, but in terms of the bracket advancing, basically move it forward if a team is unable to play, right?
I mean, that would appear to be the case. I don't think you hold up the whole tournament for one team, potentially. So maybe two, I don't know. But I think once they get to Indianapolis, it's going to be more of a bubble type situation for the duration of the tournament. So I think once you get started, you may have a team in the early round that has to be excused. But I think once you get going, it should, I mean, who knows, should finish the way it's supposed to. So we'll have to wait and see. But obviously that is something I think here in these conference tournaments that people are thinking about. I think I saw one person say Virginia's like, this is actually fortunate it happened now because they'll probably still be good to get in the NCAA tournament and play. So I guess there's two ways to look at it depending on where your program's at.
And obviously it's unprecedented the fact that you're talking about, quote, amateur athletes, BJ, that's going to be in a bubble. It's the NCAA tournament is still the NCAA tournament. It's still very, very prestigious. Still the hardest, to me, I mean, the hardest tournament to get in when you talk about everybody being eligible to get in. I just think that to be able to have these athletes, players, coaches, teams all be in one spot, that's going to be wild. So whoever wins it all this year, man, with so many unforeseen circumstances, cancellations, postponements, to hoist up the trophy this year is going to mean even more because of the circumstances just to make it to it. But I'm already saying I hope it doesn't happen, but I'm going to be devastated for a team to make it to the round of 64. And then you have you told us that we had a positive test and we got to shut it down. I know people say we know that's a part of it, but it's hard to deliver that news to your team because it's still hard, even hard to make it in this year.
Oh, certainly. And reading on some of the things that are happening there, they're going to have 6 different venues and 7 different courts that they're going to be using for the NCAA tournament. So I don't think it's 64 teams all in one spot. They're in the same city, but they're in 6 different venues playing the games leading up to the tournament. So we'll have selection Sunday on a Sunday night, and we'll know who the 68 teams are, or the 64 plus 4 that are participating in the NCAA tournament. How about that? Even now I can't let it go. I mean
that's all. That's always been your thing, man.
We're in the same city now. I guess there's that.
Well, I'll at least give you credit for being consistent. You have long said 64 teams are in the tournament. You got a couple of more that get to come and visit, and a few of those may get to advance, but really 64 are in the tournament. I do not agree with you, for the record. Just because the tournament expands doesn't mean these new additions are not welcome. Everybody's welcome. You got to have numbers that reflect the body, that reflect the infrastructure. So I think everybody's in, but I will at least say you have been consistent since day one on that front.
Yeah, all I asked is if you're in the tournament, why are you playing in a different city in a different part of the bracket, and why is everybody else not playing while you're playing? That's all.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do because of logistical layouts, like
because you're trying to play your way into the bracket.
Well, no, it's because 16 and
Okay, answer me
4.
this, BJ. When you play in the first 4 in Dayton, if you win, what happens?
You advance.
You got no, but what happens physically?
Okay, so let me ask you this.
You get on a plane and you go to where all the other teams you are already in are waiting for you to show up.
Okay, so the team.
Not in.
Okay, so in the ACC, 4 teams had double buys and they were waiting. Were all the other teams in the ACC tournament not in the tournament?
No, they didn't have a separate bracket out there for the teams.
No, they literally have a bracket that has 2 rounds that exists before you get to Georgia Tech, Florida State,
Right.
Virginia
And
Tech.
that's part of the bracket. Go fill out your March Madness bracket. The first 4 are not on the page. They're somewhere else.
But that's because 16 times 4 is 64, and it evens out in a 4-quadrant layout. It's just a logistical issue.
Which means you're not connected to or in the bracket. Thank you. Point proven. It is 3 and Out on this Friday. Glad you're with us. Final hour of the show. A lot to get to here. We'll talk some college football. It's a college football weekend, as a matter of fact, with some FCS football out there. We'll get to that coming up later in the hour here on this Friday. But a lot of NFL news out there as well. Tom Brady back with the Bucs, signs an extension, saves Tampa $19 million. Cam Newton back with the Patriots, 1 year, $14 million deal. So a couple of quarterbacks sticking around. Tom Brady, obviously doing it to try to save the Bucs some money, but again, looks like he's going to be, if he plays this thing out, he'll be 45 when the contract is potentially done. So he might push it all the way out there towards 50. Who knows? At this rate,
I mean, he's not slowing down. I mean, coming off another Super Bowl wins, Super Bowl number 7, Super Bowl MVP. And BJ, dare I say, he found a winning strategy. When people talk about what the Patriot way is, they're talking about the best player for that franchise moving on to another franchise, taking less money. People ask, how do you show your teammates love? By taking money out of my pocket, potentially so they can put more money in their pocket. At this point, it's not about money for Tom Brady. It's about adding to his legacy. Somebody said if he wins another one, no. He's done it already. Okay, he's won 7. That's ridiculous. He's once not, hey, man, he'll really put this thing, out of reach. No, it already is out of reach. It's 7. Got to go to 10. Got to win 7. So for me, listen, what can't you say about Tom Brady has already been said? I mean, the man is the greatest to ever do it, and he's still doing it. But shout out to that man, Cam. Oh, Cam, 1 year, $14 million. Happy for that man, BJ, because it's something about it. Cam Newton was on a podcast and they asked him, "What you done?" He goes, "I can't go out like this." And to me, I know you love Cam, BJ, because he's honest. He don't give you that sugar coated. He says, "I can't go out like this." And for me, I'm so glad he said that because I didn't want his lasting legacy to be 5 touchdowns passing and 10 touchdowns rush. I didn't want that to be that. But he coming back for some unfinished business. And dare I say, the Patriots, they got some money to spend now. Let's see how Cam looks with weapons around.
Yeah, I was excited to see Cam get another opportunity as well. And the Patriots may still draft a quarterback. You may look at Cam as a guy that's a bridge guy to whoever the next young option is. But Cam Newton has been unquestionably one of the greatest players of this generation. And it's amazing how quickly we've gone from Cam being the MVP and on top of the league to now people going, I don't know if he has anything left. When Cam's healthy, he's still a very good quarterback. And this is a guy that can pick apart defenses. This is a guy that still has the mobility. This guy's a leader. This guy's a winner. So I was excited to see him get a deal as well. And with Tom Brady, it really is stupid. That's the only word I know he's 40 whatever. And Ben, you said he wasn't slowing down. He was 3rd in the league in passing yards last year. The only quarterbacks that have more passing yards than Tom Brady were Deshaun Watson and Pat Mahomes. And Tom Brady's got to be close to twice Pat Mahomes' age. I mean, and beat him in the Super Bowl, obviously. It's absurd. It's absolutely ridiculous what he's doing. And you talk about a season where he had 40 touchdown passes. 40!
And Bruce Arians' offense that just had a real life 30 for 30 a year removed from that.
Yeah, the only person who had more touchdown passes than Tom Brady was Aaron Rodgers. And that's in a year where he was allegedly just adjusting to the system, just kind of figuring it out still. Kevin, I don't think it's unrealistic to say Brady could play 2-3 more years. I mean, at this point, who are we to say that, given the production and the proficiency he's still coming up with every time he runs out there?
I mean, if there's anybody that's going to keep doing it, I guess it'd be Tom Brady, because you keep waiting for he's on the wrong side of 40. And we've seen it with a number of guys. Peyton Manning, Brett Favre. If you get to that wrong side of 40, all of a sudden the ball just doesn't have that zip on it. Sometimes the playmaking ability is just not there. I mean, Tom Brady just won a Super Bowl and, got the MVP. So it was the best quarterback out there that night. So who knows? I mean, at some point, like you said, and probably for a lot of people, it was a long time ago, but you just quit betting against him and say, whatever, Tom, just you do you, man. I mean, I guess when's he going to quit? I guess when he wants to.
You guys know what the key to all this is, right?
Losing
vegetables. He goes,
oh my God.
What? No, I'm trying to help y'all understand, Kevin especially, understand the importance of vegetables. And Tom Brady's the ultimate example. I mean, this dude drinks kale milkshakes. I didn't even know you could do that. And I like kale. I like kale a lot, but in a liquid form, not necessarily. I don't know what you mix it with to make that more palatable. Maybe some orange juice or something. But Tom, what?
You probably mix it with liquor.
No, but what I'm saying, okay. But what I'm saying is, Tom Brady, man, he's doing it with vegetables.
No. Let's just stop this. Okay, hold on. Because see, this is what I don't like. So now we're telling kids, listen, you don't want to eat your beets? Well, just juice them. Don't you want to be like Tom Brady? Hell no. Now, if I got to drink beets, I don't want to be like him. No, Tom Brady, BJ, is all by himself. Like, people keep saying he's going to fall off that cliff. What cliff? He's 43 years old. I mean, he got guys on his team calling him sir, not because he's Tom Brady, but because of age. He's 20 years older than somebody. Yes, sir. What'd you say, Mr. Brady? Yes, sir. I'll be in a second, sir. I'm just saying, it's like Tom Brady is the GOAT. He's the greatest we ever gonna see. Stop saying Joe Montana.
Okay, and this is what I'm asking. How is he able to compete at the highest level athletically at 43 years old?
It's called he's seen it all, done it all. And BJ, everybody starts eating a little bit different as you get older, right? But I'm gonna hold on. But I'm gonna say this. DJ, why don't you drink your vegetables?
Because I eat my vegetables.
No. Why you can't, but that means you can't drink them?
I will say this. We have this package of thing in the freezer. It's like frozen fruits mostly, but it also has frozen vegetables in there, and you put it in the blender with ice and milk or whatever, and it makes a pretty good fruit smoothie, but it actually has vegetables in it too. I'll go get it if y'all want to know what's in it.
No. Don't give me the fruit with it. How about you just get the vegetables by itself, add more vegetables with the ice and the milk, and drink that?
I think that's called a V8.
No, because this is the thing. You know why Tom Brady is healthy? Because if you eat that much vegetable, you eat that much green, you're going to spend a lot of time in the bathroom. So don't come out of him, because that's nasty.
Yeah,
Kevin, I'm drinking vegetables.
I'd be willing to bet you're not putting milk on top of like green beans and stuff.
No, you can do whatever you want to do. That's the beauty of it.
I mean, I'm not saying you can't do whatever you want, but that sounds like a recipe for disaster. I mean,
no, I'm saying this thing you buy at the store, it's a starter pack for like a smoothie. So it has like, cut up blueberries, bananas, strawberries, but they also have some vegetables in there. Just a few.
I mean, Cam is vegan.
Milk on top of all that?
Milk and ice, yeah.
I mean, BJ, you thinking about going vegan?
What all does that entail?
No meat, no dairy. Everything is like vegetable based.
I mean, that's super healthy, I bet.
I mean, I'm thinking about going vegetarian. A vegetarian to eat meat. You better get out of here with that nonsense. That's nasty.
Some other news that's less nasty, a little more palatable out there. The Falcons re-sign Younghoe Koo and bring him back, which I think is obviously a big to do for the Atlanta Falcons. Seems like having the reliable kicker is the most like unthought of thing in the National Football League. It's like, oh, we just got one, and people forget about him until they miss a big kick, and then all of a sudden it's a big scramble to get one. But good signing there, and Jake Matthews is going to restructure, help the Falcons out on the cap a little bit. I'm sure, Ben, he will not be the only one that will restructure to help the Falcons out, but some good news that the Falcons heading in the right direction in terms of freeing up some space towards free agents and the like.
I think the thing that Terry Fontenot was brought in to do to be able to get him under the cap, be able to keep some of your cornerstone type players. I mean, Matthews ain't the player he used to be, but restructuring means that you are a part of the future because we'll take care of you in the present. You're going to take some of that backload of money and give it to them in the signing bonus, because the thing is, you still got to be able to sign some rookies, and you're going to have some very, very, very cap-friendly free agents. Ain't going to be no $10 million a year free agents coming into the Falcons. But if you want to bring some new guys on your team, you're going to have some money to give them. So they're trying to get under that cap and try to avoid $5 million per like infraction or something when it comes to the fine money. They don't have any fine money right now.
Well, and Kevin, a well-deserved extension for Younghoe Koo. When you think about what he's done, I don't think people at first glance fully realize how incredible he's been. In 2019, he was 23 of 26. Okay, that's getting it done as a kicker. Last year, he was 37 of 39. 37 of 39. That's like one of the best seasons in NFL history. And you talk about coming through with some money kicks. You talk about the long kicks where he's been very good from 40 plus, from 50 plus. Obviously, he was being used a lot with almost 40 attempts. So Younghoe Koo has been extraordinary for Atlanta.
Absolutely. And again, I think that's probably going to be one of the more unthought of signings. I know that when, what was it, Matt Bryant, when he finally left the Falcons, I thought a lot of people kind of downplayed that. I'm like, it's, you get a reliable kicker in the NFL, man. That's kind of like not as obviously valuable as a quarterback, but people just forget, you trot those guys out there that it's not just an automatic thing. And if you don't have that, I mean, it could take you a minute to find one that you feel comfortable with. And I think Younghoe is that guy, and he's made some big kicks for the Falcons, obviously including one against the Carolina Panthers, which is always good in Atlanta Falcons circles. So probably one that's not going to get a lot of headlines just around football, probably not even get a lot of headlines among Falcon circles. But, man, when you have that reliable kicker, that is worth its weight in gold.
And another one of the dudes been out of Georgia Southern doing big things. I mean, including a couple of kickers. Tyler Bass, obviously, up in Buffalo, had a fantastic year. So guys all over the place, including a couple of specialists doing it big for Georgia Southern.
Yeah, I'm happy for Younghoe Koo. I mean, when you look at the fact that BJ, he's going to be looked upon to be a weapon. I mean, we the only time we notice kickers and when they don't get the job done is if to say anybody on the field can do what they're doing. Like literally, nobody can do what they're doing. So, I mean, I'm happy for him. I mean, and you look at it, he's going to be a weapon moving forward. But yeah, whenever you can have, a great kicker, I mean, that's like having that ace. I mean, you having a guy that can come out there and win some games for you. So yeah, happy. And dare I say, Georgia Southern BJ continuing with that. With that kicker, still got it going. So happy for that man.
Now we've got more to come here on 3 and Out as we look at some college football around the corner. Who might be that next Clemson waiting in the wings in college football? We'll break it down next. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here on this Friday, Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Thanks for making us a part of your day. Hit us up on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. At Pigskin Radio. We're also streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com, live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, as well as college football always in the news. We were talking earlier with Matt Ray about Tennessee getting ready for spring practice. We talked about Georgia spring practice earlier in the week, but who might be that next team ready to break out in a big way? According to Bill Connolly, put out a piece, ESPN.com. He said, hey, who's that next Clemson, BJ and Ben? He said, quote, here are 5 programs that I think have the best chance of becoming a new Clemson, the team we look at in a few years from now as a program that broke through in 2021 and unleashed a run of college football playoff bids on an unsuspecting universe. He's got Georgia, Notre Dame, Oregon, Penn State, LSU as his 5 teams that could become the, quote, new Clemson. His 2 reasons there with Georgia as why it hadn't happened yet. Bama, well, that's a big reason, and that the offense hasn't quite come around yet. But when you think of the new Clemson, are you in line with these 5 teams? Because I look at a lot of these teams. I mean, Georgia's recently been in the college football playoff. LSU was there last year, 2 years ago, won a championship. Oregon's been there. Notre Dame's been there. Penn State is not. I could see that where Clemson kind of was on the verge, and then boom, they've been in the college football playoff. To me, Penn State might be a team that more falls into that who's the next Clemson rather than a team that's looking to take just a next little step forward.
Yeah, to be that Clemson that dominates every year and is just kind of a shoe-in for the college football playoff as currently constituted, I think that's going to be really, really tough for Georgia. And a lot of it, just being honest, is because of the nature of their schedule and the nature of the league they're in. Georgia, I know Bill mentioned Alabama there. Every single year, Georgia has to go through Florida and Georgia has to go through Alabama, or at least the possibility of Alabama. And Alabama for the last decade and a half, for much of the last 50 years, has been the standard in college football, has been the gold standard, the number 1 program. Doesn't matter who they lose, doesn't matter who they bring back. They're going to be number 1, number 2, and they're seemingly going to be just as good. I don't see that changing anytime in the near future. And whereas Georgia looks at their schedule and they see Florida every Halloween and they see potentially Alabama every early December, who does Clemson see? I mean, let me ask you this, Kevin. Who on Clemson's schedule outside of Georgia meets the talent threshold to beat them?
Well, I mean, right now, and again, this changes, but right now, for the last several years, you see a bunch of teams that are trying to rebuild. Is the answer nobody?
Right now, probably, yeah. Yeah, and I mean that's what I'm getting at. And you can even say Florida State, but guys, if we're being honest, Florida State won 3 games last year. They won 3. So when I talk about Florida State rebuilding, I don't mean rebuilding to within the next year or 2 beating Clemson. I mean rebuilding to like consistent bowl eligibility. Now, maybe 4 or 5 years from now, it's a different equation. But in terms of the near future, there is absolutely nobody standing in Clemson's way. And look, that's not Clemson's problem. Clemson has dominated their competition. They probably furthered the gap between them and the rest of their league with their play. But in terms of saying Georgia has the opportunity to be a Clemson, I mean, let me ask you a real simple question, Ben. Is Clemson making the college football playoff this season?
Yes.
Of course they are. Of course they are. Yes, they are. And that's even with the Georgia at the beginning of the year, because if they lose that game, they're still going to win out. And I don't think we sometimes think about the significance of this. Clemson is 31-1 in its last 32 ACC games. The one game they lost was in overtime to a team that's no longer in the league, and they didn't have their quarterback. Like think about that. It took all that for them to even lose in overtime. In their last 55 games, Clemson is 52-3. Those 3 losses have come by 1 point, by 3 points when Kelly Bryant got hurt, and the Notre Dame game when Trevor Lawrence didn't play. Clemson dominates and eviscerates the ACC, like 50-0, 70-10. I think that's a hard standard for Georgia to try to meet moving forward. And I'll also say this about Georgia. I agree 100% with Bill about Alabama, but I don't think people appreciate Florida. I mean, since I've been an adult, Georgia has struggled to beat Florida consistently. And Georgia was more talented than Florida last year. They had a 14-point lead. They lost that game. So when I look at Georgia, it's not that I don't think they're elite men. It's not that I don't think they don't have great coaches, great players.
Mm-hmm.
It's you have a Florida in front of you every October, and then you more than likely have an Alabama in front of you every December, and those are obstacles that Clemson right now doesn't have.
Yeah, the reason why I think it's going to be, the only team on this list that I think even got a shot is maybe Oregon, and this is why. The thing about it is most of these teams, we've seen their best. Notre Dame is going to be a team because they don't have because obviously they're not in the ACC. They stand on their schedule alone and their prestige to get in. Penn State is going to be a team to where, I'm sorry, Penn State's not beating Ohio State. They're just not doing. There's nothing that Penn State has done to make me think they're going to beat Ohio State. Yes, maybe that happened that one year when they had Saquon Barkley. I don't see no Saquons coming through there. LSU has shown us when you put everything together, when you everything together, they got a chance to go out there and do. But look at who they did it with. A quarterback that set the new standard in college football, definitely the SEC. Receivers, we had 3 receivers that had double-digit touchdowns. The one on win the Biletnikoff, you had a 1,500-yard rush, you had 50 catches. If that's what you think you got to do to be the next Clemson, good luck with that. Oregon got a shot because of who they are and the conference that they play in. They got a shot to do it. Now, when they say Clemson, what do they mean? Do they mean a perennial college football playoff contender? They're not going to win it. Like, Oregon's not going to win it. But I just think that the thing about Georgia, what's scary is this. Georgia has shown us their best. This 2021 team is not better than the 2018 team that went to the net. It is not better than that team. You ain't stacked with veterans all over the place. You finally got your quarterback. But this is the thing about Georgia is, bigger than the Alabama situation, Georgia has to overcome Georgia. Georgia has everything you need. Coach, check. Players, check. Infrastructure, check. And yet, in the big moments, they know it and we know it. Something's going to happen. So I just think that when you look at the next Clemson, that means that you win your conference every year. Before the season starts, you're going to win it. All right, boot, check. Then, who we going to play in the college football playoff? All right, Kelly Bryant made it to the college football playoff. I'm just saying, BJ, when you start comparing people to Clemson, we don't appreciate.
But let me even say this. It's like Clemson is such an outlier with everything they do in the ACC. Like, Clemson just had a top 5 recruiting class. There was not another ACC team in the top 10. So when Clemson does something extraordinary, even Florida State, Miami, Virginia Tech are looking up going, man, that's really impressive. When Georgia does something extraordinary in recruiting, well, they're in the same group with LSU and Alabama and Auburn, and Tennessee just had a good class. Florida has top classes. Texas A&M had a top 5 class. So you're just.
But I think the point of just to let me, move it along here. I think the point of Bill Connolly was, when Dabo took over at Clemson, I don't think anybody saw this happening, right? I mean, they were a good team, not an elite team. They always seem to drop games that maybe they shouldn't, and they never could get over that hump of, hey, we can win 10, but we probably can't win 11 or 12. We can win 9, but we can't get that one to throw us forward. And then it seemingly just switched for Clemson, and they have taken off. And is there a team sitting there like that is, maybe they can't break through, and then whatever happens, they punch through and it's on. I mean, maybe Oregon could be that because the Pac-12, it is probably more similar to the ACC in terms of competitiveness top to bottom. And maybe that's something, maybe it could be a USC potentially. But, I think, as you said, when you look at the other ones on this list, LSU has been in the playoffs. Notre Dame has been in the playoffs. Georgia's been in the playoffs. Penn State is not. Oregon has a little bit. So I look more at who's the team that's knocking on the door of getting there, that once they do, as Ben said, it's like, not that they win it all, but they're going to be there because they finally got it out of their brain or whatever it is that says, look, we can do this.
But I think if you're gonna find a new Clemson that basically every year, correct me if I'm wrong, if they make it this fall, that'll be the 6th consecutive year?
Yep.
Of making the college football playoff. And this is not being ugly. Again, credit deserves to be given to Clemson for extending that margin, but the ACC is down.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I say a Pac-12 team might fit that bill because, again, you'll be in a position where you could kind of hold your own over the conference and probably start dominating and recruiting and find yourself in the college football playoff.
Maybe. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't know where kind of programs like Washington and SC are, infrastructure wise and kind of recruiting wise compared to Oregon. I mean, maybe, but I think if you're Georgia and you're looking at Clemson saying we can be them again, are you going to go 52-3 over 55 conference games? Are you gonna win 32 out of 33 conference games? And Kevin, I'll give you credit for this. This is something you have also long said. You have long said, even since I was a wee child listening to you back in the day, that
whoa. Since you was a what? Listening to who?
Yeah. When I was a kid, I used to listen to Kevin. But listen, if you're in the SEC and you're going to tell us, understandably and rightfully so, that it is by far the toughest league, and every week is a grind, and anybody can beat you, and everybody has NFL players. Well, if that's the case, you can't expect to go 12-0 every year. If it's the toughest league in the country and everybody can beat you, then how are you going to go 55-3 or whatever Clemson has done? It's the SEC, man.
I think that's why what Alabama does is also so stupid, because it's like it just doesn't make sense.
But they also, but also to be fair, they have A, the greatest coach of all time.
Understandable.
And B, they're a program that has done that since their inception. Like Alabama has been the college football standard in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s up through the 80s. It basically has taken probation to knock Alabama from the perch atop college football. With all due respect to Georgia, which has a great history, Georgia does not have Alabama's history or standard or kind of level of historical excellence.
And the thing about it is when you talk about Clemson, you'll say, "Hey man, what started it? Was it Dabo? Nope, it was Taj. Then it went from Taj to Deshaun, and Deshaun to Kelly, and Kelly and Trump. So they have a long history of great quarterback play. When you talk about Georgia, they say, well, they had a team in a moment in 2018, right? That's it. Because the offense to come back around. What offense to come back around? Coach Market offense? An offense that we don't know if they're going to be run or pass? Because you're getting the players, right? You're getting the players. So what happens when you get the players, got the coach, got the infrastructure, got the resources, got the scheme, and it doesn't work? That just means that sometimes you might have and I'm not saying it's going to be, but sometimes you've shown this is as great as we're going to be. We're a great program, but greatness, BJ, has different scales. It ain't the same scale. Alabama is the barometer. Clemson is trying to
the case in point, Ben, I love this, and it's not just to poke fun at you. It's a great frame of reference indicator for everybody thinking they can be the next Clemson and go 12-0 every year, and that's within reach. Florida has been one of the elite dominant programs of the last 40 years. Ben, how many undefeated seasons does Florida have in its history?
Zero.
Because they're in the SEC. It's impossible.
But I also think this too. This is what I always say. Before you can try to be somebody else, who are you? You say, okay, Georgia is trying to be the next Clemson. Who is Georgia now? If you had to put one word on Georgia, you would say inconsistent. Doesn't mean they can't do it. But BJ, if you in the top 5 every year recruiting, your coach is one of the most recognizable coaches, you getting everything you want. It come down to you, Clemson, and Alabama for players, and you can't win the Natty. Maybe this is as high as we can fly.
I don't know if I go with that. I mean, I think they're there. They just, again, for Clemson, it just takes the right situation, and it took off. And I think for Georgia, I could potentially see that where it's like, hey, you get there, and if you finally break through, then I think that could set those wheels in motion when you kind of get that cycle. Same thing, you see in sports all the time. Oh, the Braves made the playoffs. Well, they haven't won anything, a series in 20 years. Well, what's the first thing that gets said every time? Oh, you guys can't win one. I mean, you can't get there. And then it takes finally getting through, I think, to maybe get that out of your brain and maybe achieve what you're capable of. And again, BJ's right. The hill is steep. Yeah. The hill is steep, but it's steep. I mean, it looks easy for Clemson, but once they get to the postseason, they're playing top 5 teams. They have to still beat them to get there. So, look, I think Georgia's close. I think they just need to get in a situation. I mean, I know 2018, you don't want to keep bringing that up, but I mean, your offense walked off the field with the lead, and you just need a one play to make it stand up. That's how close it is. And maybe that's not an overcomable thing, but I think you're right there. You need just to have that breakthrough moment that kind of spurs you to the next level. And I think Georgia's still trying to find that one moment, big spot that kind of says, all right, we can do this. And I think they could be one of those teams that you're talking about there 4, 5, 6, 7 years in a row, potentially getting a shot to play for it.
I mean, that's the thing, though. It's almost like 2013 Florida State. They said this is the team, right? Both sides of the ball, and they won it. 2010 Auburn. This is the team, and they won it. But the thing about it is every year, hey man, look, forget what we did. What about next year? Like Derrick Henry said, every recruiting class that Nick Saban has ever had has been to a national championship. That's the standard. So with Clemson, now it's, hey man, we going to the college football playoff. It's who we gonna play. Like it's not that. It's not that. We're going who we're gonna play. I think that level of excellence is very, 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 very hard to get to. And then once you get, it's almost like somebody saying, all right, man, the goal is to lift 315 to right here. All right, got it. Now you got to lift it over your head. And now you got to hold it there. What? I got to hold this up until somebody else comes and grabs it. And that sounds crazy, but that's how crazy that standard is. And I just think that Kevin and BJ, it can't, listen, the most dangerous word in the dictionary is potential. Because, buddy, we all got it. But living up to it, that's a total different thing. And I just think that's what Georgia's dealing with right now.
And we again, we'll see if they're able to break through here in 2021. We've got more to come. It is a college football weekend. We'll get to some of those matchups when we return here on a Football Friday. It's 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network. It's a football Friday here on 3 and Out, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, as we get to another big weekend here of FCS football. Good to see them again, working their season here in the spring, and we'll get to see the FCS playoffs, which are always a lot of fun. Some big games coming up this weekend in the SoCon, BJ, where you've got some key matchups here for some teams that are obviously trying to win the conference, get the playoffs. Obviously, we heard earlier, like some teams that played in the fall, that counts. They're 0-4, so you really got to win the SoCon if you want to have any chance of making the FCS playoffs here. So key games this weekend.
Yeah, it's a big weekend, as all of them are, and I would keep an eye on the Mercer Bears here out of Macon. They are going up to Lexington, Virginia to take on VMI. VMI is off to a fantastic start, as we've talked about, maybe their best start in 20, 25, 30 years. And they are undefeated right now. If Mercer can get a dub, and I think Mercer feels like they can play with anybody in the league, that shakes things up a little bit in the SoCon. I mean, it's almost been an ACC Coastal-like SoCon season where whoever you feel like on paper might be a tad bit better, the other team wins. And if that theme holds true, a lot of parity, keep an eye on Mercer. But yeah, Wofford's got Samford. That's going to be a tight one. The Citadel trying to get their first win. I would expect them to get that against Western Carolina Saturday. And then Furman and ETSU. ETSU is a team. We had Randy Sanders on a couple of weeks back. They haven't lost yet. So should be a fascinating weekend in SoCon.
BJ, you saying Mercer going to be able to try to go out there and get a dub, against VMI? That VMI defense is serious. Is Mercer ready to be in a track meet? Because VMI going to score points. Is Mercer ready to go back and forth? And can Mercer win a shootout, basically? Well,
no, it's a great question. And you're right about VMI, because the kind of the script on them the last couple of years is, hey, Reese Udinski is going to throw for 944 yards, but maybe they're going to give up some points. Well, they had 10 sacks versus Furman and held Furman to 13 points, held Western Carolina to 7 points. So that's going to be a fun game. I'm just saying if kind of the way the league storylines have evolved continues, don't be surprised if that's a tight game late.
Certainly. And again, Furman, ETSU, VMI, Mercer, you mentioned Wofford, Samford, a good one. This is a nice slate of games in the SoCon here. I guess we're getting close to halfway done already in the spring here. So we'll see. And good to get these guys are getting their opportunities to get some of the spotlight. But as you said, BJ, in the unusual nature of 2020, 2021, we're seeing some teams that maybe we didn't expect a whole lot out of really playing well here in the spring that I don't think anybody saw coming.
Well, guys making the most of opportunities, and it's going to be a really good football weekend. I mean, you think about Savannah State, chatting with Sean Quinn, really excited that those guys are, getting after it and playing over at Lad Peoples in Mobile. That's going to be a great scene and a great game. You think about on Sunday on ESPN2, you have Jackson State and Mississippi Valley State with Coach Prime. And think about the history of those two programs. I mean, those two HBCUs, Walter Payton went to Jackson State. Jerry Rice went to Mississippi Valley State. So that's a showcase of programs with a lot of history. I think Dion's done a good job, Ben. I mean, look, winning games, fun games to watch, and they got a chance to continue to make a statement in front of a national audience this weekend.
The SWAC commissioner, BJ, said it. He said I was looking forward to being able to take full advantage of this spotlight. And they were saying that Jackson State and Grambling was on ESPN3 last week, and they got so many streams. I mean, it was kind of getting shut down. Everybody's watching, so it got moved to ESPN2. But the thing about it is Mississippi Valley State head coach, Coach Vincent Dancy, he's a Jackson State alum. So he's going up against his alma mater, and he's saying, listen, man, they already picked us to finish last in the division, and I know they got Dion over there. So they thinking because we're going to be on TV, he said, let me tell y'all this. You can print this. We ain't coming here to be embarrassed. I'm just telling you that right now. I like the trash talk, and obviously, BJ, you look at the profile of Deion Sanders and what he, not just what he's doing personally, for the whole conference. His team is playing well. And that Grambling, people talk about the Citadel game last week. Oh, Grambling and JSU came down to the white. Grambling is going in the score, and they fumble going in on like the 3-yard line. So you got some good games, BJ. But another game, Wofford and Samford. What's going to be? Wofford. Obviously they had their game postponed against ETSU. They didn't have. I guess like the mandated number of players at D-line. You need 6. They had 5. and now they got to add they call it like kind of like a flash position, O-line slash. I mean, outside linebacker slash DN position. So teams are being affected by the pandemic, by these numbers. So Wofford hasn't been out there. We're gonna see if that's gonna affect them. But BJ, be on the lookout for VMI. I know everybody like, what about?
All right, Kevin, I got to say this too. Going back to week 1, was it week 1 VMI played Furman, and we were sitting here picking games, and I said, look, man, this one might get away from VMI, and Ben goes, keep an eye on those VMI boys. And what happened? They came out with the upset. So I'll give it to you. You've called it. Scott Wackenheim's team's been really good. If they win Saturday, they'll be ranked. Probably should be ranked already. But yeah, they've been one of the surprises of the FCS.
I never ever get caught up in the preseason favorite unless it's Alabama. And I leave that alone. I mean, that's rightfully so. But I think what happens is, BJ, if it's kind of like Coastal Carolina. I get tired of, if I'm a player at VMI, what you mean they got us pick to finish 3rd or 4th? Do they know VMI is the most balanced team right now? They do it on offense and defense, and that defense is nasty. You better come to play Mercer. I feel bad for you guys, man, from a standpoint of you better come strapped up, because BJ, I'm telling you, old Carter Peasy, he gonna have to get it done this weekend, baby. And I'm looking forward to it.
You're sending out the challenge to Coach Chronic there at Mercer.
I love you, man.
We got more to come. Big weekend there in the FCS, though, as football continues here in the spring. We got more to come. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here on this Friday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Again, good to have Matt Ray joining us earlier in the show, talking some Vols football and more. Looks like a nice weekend here in Southeast Georgia as well. And BJ, before we got out of here, I did want to ask Ben, if you take a pine cone, roll it in peanut butter and birdseed, does that make a good homemade bird feeder for the kids when they're, making their way through the park?
It depends. I mean, because over the years I did want to go just straight up creamy, but I've learned that maybe crunchy peanut butter does the trick as well. It does attract a different kind of a different kind of squirrel out there. There are the squirrels that are all black, but from my knowledge, the only thing that really breaks them out is the crunchy peanut butter. And please don't slide. I'm not talking about Peter Pan. More Jiffy. I would go more Jiffy. That seems to do the trick. At least from what I've noticed. And if you get bit, that's your own fault. That means you've actually gotten too close. Go to my manual at www.hellno-scouting.com. You should be able to pick up some of my tips.
All right. On a serious note, though, what's the best kind of insect repellent?
I mean, I know everybody. I mean, I typically go with off BJ, but I've been told if you add just a smidgen, just a little smidgen of what is it, bleach, just a little bit, it kind of keeps it away because we're dealing with sand gnats as well as mosquitoes.
All right. For the record, we are not advocating putting bleach in your
No. I just told y'all. Go to www.hellnoscouting.com and you will be able to pick up on these tips. I just went. It says the website is down.
That's a shame. That's a shame. No, it should be a great weekend. Remember, park hours 6A to 6P. You can check out Ben at the Ranger Station. He'll be happy to answer any and all of your
questions. Special guest Kevin Thomas. In 2 weeks, we still trying to finalize with his people. He's not.
No. From what I heard, I thought you were bringing on an assistant named Rich Styles.
Yes.
Well, Rich Styles. We got with his people, and his people cost too much, so we told Rich. We'll try to do another time. And Rich, he loved the kids, but he loved that cheese a little bit more.
Yes. So remember, have fun out there this weekend. Do not feed the marsh bears, or you will have a visit from Ranger Ben, who will ask you to leave the premises all at the same time. So,
I mean, if I got to show up, you've done something really, really wrong at that point. You shouldn't have to meet me. I trust my assistants.
Hey man, you'd be proud. We went fishing.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Then I could really get out of the woods.
There it is. No, we went fishing last week. Caught a sheep's head. Caught a couple little whitings. So we've been out and about doing it.
BJ, what's it called? A cast netting? Am I ever gonna get to see that before from you?
Well, that's a very specific and distinct skill. Like that's an athletic thing that you got to, a lot of hip movement,
twist and throw. It's just nope, not everybody can do it.
All right, talk trash. Come out there this summer.
We got more to come next week for you. We'll obviously have the bracket set for March Madness. Look ahead to who some of the sleepers in the bracket of 64 might be as well. We've got one of the semifinals in the ACC for you coming up tonight, 8 o'clock, as Georgia Tech moves on to the finals due to COVID in Virginia's program. But Florida State, Virginia Tech, we'll have that one for Florida State, North Carolina, 8 p.m. We'll have it for you right here. We'll see you Monday, 3 and Out, Southern Pigskin Radio Network.